into the box and then I've got another load. After a while my arms will get tired and then this job will blow. But I could be replaced by a machine that does my work in half the time. But I don't know where I'd go, 'cause I prefer putting cogs into the box. Now I've got another load. Only just a few more hours and then I'm free to go. But I can't cease in questioning if I really have a home. It makes me sick to think of it, 'cause I prefer
The summer is past, but your days keep growing longer. There's no wind in your sails, but the storm's blowing stronger. Walking hard, standing tall, keeping your head up through it all. Fighting fires, spinning plates. Goodness, how did it get so late? Lay your head down and dream. Lay your head down and dream. Lay your head down and dream. Lay your head down and just let your mind flow downstream. Sprawled out in a moonbeam. Lay your head down and dream. Joe Hills is filmed before a live streaming audience.
That's us. Howdy, y'all. Joe Hills here, recording as I always do in Nashville, Tennessee, and tonight, y'all are my live streaming audience. Welcome, one and all. I am really happy to mention that we are joined this evening by a call-in guest, a friend of mine that I used to hang out with at PAX back when, people hung out at PAX. It's Morvelaira. Morvy, do you mind saying hello for everybody?
Hello, everyone.
Okay, it looks like your levels are good to me in OBS. If y'all have any trouble hearing Morvy or anything like that, please let me know so I can get that dealt with before we get too far into the topic. You might be wondering, what's the topic tonight? Because I haven't bothered to read the, stream title or the tweets about what's going on. You know what? That's fine. It's not your job to keep up with that stuff. That's my job to let you know at the beginning of the stream. So here we are. Just a few people hanging out, talking about what we're doing right now. And what we're doing right now is we're talking about parenting, Minecraft streaming, creativity, basically all of the things that are hard about becoming a parent for the first time before the age of gaming are still a problem now. None of these problems got solved, so we're still dealing with them. And Morvy and I are going to talk about those. Morvy, do you mind sharing a little bit of details about your situation? How long ago you started streaming? How recently you had a kid? Just stuff like that, just to give people a bit of background.
Okay, well, I have to do a little tiny bit of math. I've been streaming for many years now. Most of my longest subscribers on my Twitch channel here just hit around 100 months for their subscriptions.
Wow.
So, and I was streaming for a good year and a half, 2 years before that. So
that's about 9 years.
Something like that. Back in the days when it was still Justin TV.
Yeah. Well, that's funny, too, because I was also streaming back on Ustream and whatnot before Twitch even existed. And it's so funny how the people who come into streaming now really have big expectations of what a streamer is and what streaming is. But like for us back then, we were making everything up as we went, you know? None of this was sorted out.
Yeah, and I mean, streaming back at that time was like, oh, hey, I can see what my friend is doing while he's on the server with me. That's pretty much all it was.
Yeah, because I started off streaming art as a way to keep up with friends I met at conventions and things like that. Instead of seeing them once or twice a year, they could pop by my stream whenever, you know? And then only later did I start streaming Minecraft. Did you come into streaming starting off with Minecraft, or were you doing other games or other stuff?
It's definitely Minecraft where I got my start.
Gotcha. And you were involved in the Feed the Beast community, doing a lot of modded stuff, right?
Yeah, I did a lot of Feed the Beast stuff. I did also still hold my seat on HermitCraft and all that fun stuff, even though I haven't touched it too much since servers changed in a little bit here. But yeah. But yeah, I branched out into doing a lot of Final Fantasy 14 stuff and whatever I'm playing now type of stuff as well. So
Yeah, I hadn't really done too much like quote unquote variety streaming until HermitCraft went on hiatus for 3 months, and switching over to playing Pokemon and things like that was kind of a big transition for me. But yeah, so you used to do a bunch of different things, it sounds like, and you're trying to get back into it because you had a kid how long ago?
she'll be 3 next month.
Yeah, now here's the thing is people might be like, what, 3 years old? How have you not bounced back? I still haven't entirely bounced back from my kid being born, and she's 9. Like, I can tell that I am spending so much energy on just the basics of parenting. Like, I'm doing better than I was when she was 3. Honestly, I'm doing better than I was when she was 6. Because, like, as they get older, they get more independent. But, like, that really, until they start being able to like understand and reason for themselves and like exercise judgment, you're going to be spending a lot of your brain power exercising judgment for them and just taking care of them.
I mean, to be fair, I may be biased, but I think she's pretty good for her age. But that's still for a nearly 3-year-old.
A nearly 3, so not even 3 yet. Yeah, so like if you can't just put a 3-year-old down on the couch with a young reader's novel and say, okay, you know, you get just when you get like through 3 chapters, you can come bother me, right? They're not that able to entertain themselves. You know what I mean?
I can get about a half hour from a YouTube video of funny cats and dogs, and maybe an hour out of a Pixar film.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's rough because like when my daughter was around 1 to 3, basically the only time that I really had to record was when she was asleep, but not asleep at night because that would be disruptive for my ex who was doing a PhD in biophysics at the time, and so basically I would have like while my daughter was taking naps to record. And I had to really basically stop streaming entirely for a while because, you know, when you stream, people expect you to be able to do 2-3 hours at once. But like with recording, if I could get 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, I could slowly build a video, you know?
Yeah, and that's part of why I've thought about making videos instead of streaming here. But you know that perfectionist bug that gets a lot of people when they do videos. That gets me so badly.
I totally understand. My latest video, I spent so long editing it, and like I think it came out well, but I also know if I had really just spent like another 40 hours editing it, it would have came out so much better. At the same time, I'm like, but what does that translate to in practice? Like, would more people have actually seen it? Does the algorithm care if it's better edited? I mean, realistically, the same people who saw it might have been slightly more impressed, but if I'm already making a video that's like one of the best I've ever made, do they need to be that much slightly more impressed that it's worth, you know, being 3 or 4 days behind schedule, you know?
Yeah.
You got to balance that. But yeah, like with kids, if my videos produced in that time are all me very quiet and whispering. Because up until that point, I used to do a lot of like when I got jump scared, I would scream real loud type stuff in the super hostile maps, and that was off the table. If I screamed real loud, that recording session was over. We were back to
Yeah.
playing with, Duplos or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, my office where my computer is literally right next to my daughter's room, and I mean, I've thought about recording or streaming sometimes while she's napping, but honestly, I spend all morning watching her and keeping my eyes on her and making sure she doesn't get into anything,
Hmm.
and then usually by the time I've had a chance to eat some food and then recovering from having all of my attention on her for that morning, that's about when she wakes up.
Yeah, and like that's the one of the hard things about the early years is you don't get recovery time. Like if even with, both parents trying to work together and stuff, it's just a lot to maintain a household. It's financially, at least one person needs to have a high paying job, or both people need to be doing something, and it's rough to then make sure everything else gets done. Like, yeah, I was really struggling to get anything made for the first few years. And at the same time, though, I feel like I've bounced back pretty well on the whole. Like, my YouTube numbers aren't really comparable in a lot of ways to people who started out the same time as me and didn't choose to have kids yet. But I feel like, yeah, the ways that I spent my time have paid off on in both lanes, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, it absolutely does. I mean, to be fair, having kids was one of those things that was kind of a surprise for me.
Oh, gotcha.
Um, yeah, doctors had told me that we'd had some fertility problems, and doctors had just said, "Oh, it's never going to happen."
Hmm.
And so we gave up. And 5 years I spent just live streaming, getting used to the idea, all that kind of stuff. And right when I finally got used to the idea and started getting excited about what all the options of being a grown up without any kids could be like, that's when she decided to show up.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things, like sometimes there's always unknowns in life. It's like at least this one's cute, you know.
There is that.
So yeah, that's it. It can be one of those things, like, yeah, if you're not prepared for it though, it's harder to obviously structure your, you didn't have time to structure your life in a way where you're like, okay, I can make sure that we've got somebody lined up to come in every Tuesday and Wednesday afternoon to watch her so that I can record or stream. Because like, and that's one of those things, like, I never really had a great babysitting safety net in where I lived. I didn't have any family that lived close enough to just do anything consistent, and I didn't have any I couldn't afford to pay someone. And so, and I was going to say, and in some ways that was hard on both my ex-wife and I, but I guess it was kind of harder on me because for her, I was that person. Like, so at least she had me to do it. But like,
Yeah, I'm the primary caregiver at home too. My husband thankfully has a job that he can support all of us by himself with that. But yeah, I mean, we have my in-laws, luckily, who are local, but they are old enough that handling a toddler more than one partial day a week is really, anything more than that's too much for them.
yeah.
And
Maybe there's a crossover point where she's more self-sufficient and they're not too old, but maybe not. It really depends on the kid and on the grandparents.
I'm it's a possibility, but I'm not sure that with their relative ages that she's going to cross over to that self-sufficient point by the time they're young enough to do anything really.
No, and that's
And I mean,
fair. And I'm not telling you to count on that because, like I said, I didn't have that. Some people are
Yeah.
fortunate too, and if that was something you can find a way to lean on, I would recommend it. But yeah, like realistically, at a certain point, for me, I just kind of had to accept I'm gonna have a few years where I'm just not doing public facing work that I'm proud of. I'm proud of taking care of my daughter. I think I did a great job, and like, I don't think that was a mistake in any way, but realistically, there was no way to do that and this at the level I'm doing it now. But part of the reason I'm able to do it now full time is because I kept kind of showing up when I could, even if when I could was only like every few weeks or in some cases every few months, because I was so snowed under with parenting stuff, you know. Like, I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot here, but like, you know, we knew each other maybe 8 years ago, and we would hang out at cons and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, when you reached out to me, did you think that I would actually like say, yeah, come on the show, or did you think I'd be like, who the heck is Morvelaira?
I was pretty confident you would remember who I was, but I didn't know if you would be shall we say, friendly enough with me to even have a conversation about it, let alone invite me onto your stream.
Well, I guess this is part of my point, though, is that like one of the things that surprised me was how many people that I assumed, like, okay, I just dropped off the face of the earth for 3 years. Like, I would occasionally say something, but like they might not have really heard from me or seen me. I wasn't going to conventions. I wasn't networking in the traditional senses. I was trying to keep up with people on Twitter or pop into their streams when I could, but I was just tired, you know, like just bone tired all the time. And, you know, it was one of those things where I knew I would want to get back into it one day, but it's like, what's the minimum that I have to do to like be able to like reach out to people and have them be excited, like that they remember me, like, yeah, let's do stuff. And people were more forgiving than I thought. I really thought like I haven't managed to do the bare minimum. But, you know, it turned out people, if you showed up and did the work a few years back, people understand having a kid is a lot. And then you show up a few years later, you're not starting from zero, like somebody who's never streamed in their lives or never been to PAX or been part of ForgeCraft, you know?
Yeah.
And so,
and yeah, there's definitely some of the best friends I've made throughout, the time when I was streaming consistently. They've been there 100% all the way. They're practically aunts and uncles for my children.
Mhm.
But I don't really expect anyone else who I haven't kept up with to. I don't feel like they owe me anything, if that makes any sense.
Well, I completely agree with you. I didn't think that people owed me anything. I wasn't entitled or whatever. I just kind of was hoping, because like I remember when my daughter was first born, and I was like, you know, I'm having a hard time getting back into things, and people are like, well, just reach out when you can. And I, you know, a few years later, I'm like, I know you said reach out when you can, and maybe you meant like in a few months, but like, hi, like people were generally a lot more that they were a lot more understanding about it than I expected, you know?
Yeah, it helped also that some of folks in the circles that I hang out with went through their own, oh, hey, I have a kid now journeys, either a couple years before or around the same time that I did.
Oh yeah, that definitely helps when you're in a community with other parents. And so, okay, I mean, we've been kind of providing a little bit of background to the viewers about what the topic is tonight. Once again, parenting and creativity, making things, streaming, palling around, the broad strokes here. But like, this is not a particularly heavily outlined interview. In fact, since Morvie came to me about this, I kind of want to know, you know, what did you want to ask me, or what were you hoping to get out of this? And we don't have to have the whole list right now, but like, is there, if I had said like, oh sure, let's hop on a Discord call without the show or whatever, what would have been your first question?
You kind of slightly touched on it already. Is just I know that in order to keep going with my stream and all that, I just have to find those times when I can do it and just do it.
Mm-hmm.
But how do you make yourself do that when all you want is a nap?
It's not easy. I started drinking coffee, which I had not really done before, for one thing. So yeah, stimulants. But realistically,
Drugs are the answer, children. No, don't quote me
no.
on that. I'm joking.
But realistically though, it's the sort of thing where you just got to kind of figure out, can I get a few hours here and there? Like, can I say, hey, the first weekend of the month, can you take the kid to the zoo without me so I can stream or something like that? And, you know, as the primary caregiver, on some level, I was like, well, if my wife, now ex-wife, is going to the zoo with our kid, I want to go too, because we don't get a lot of family time because we both had jobs and stuff. But at the same time, if I spent every hour I wasn't at work with my kid and never on anything creative, I wasn't going to be able to function as the sort of parent that I wanted to show her it was possible to be. Like, it was very important to me that our daughters see that it's okay for your parents to both have goals and to have a child. We weren't going to give up our goals to have her, and we weren't going to use our goals as an excuse to be lazy parents either. But, like, you know, her mom was going to work on her PhD, and I was going to do my creative and art stuff, and we were going to find a way to show her that, like, because, like, so many kids grow up with parents that just either ignore them or gave up on their dreams and then are resentful of them. And we didn't want that for her, you know? And I could tell, like, if I wasn't getting the time to focus on being creative, it was dragging me down. Even though I never actually, like, resented her or anything, I could tell, like, kids are smart. They'll, as they get older, be able to tell that you're miserable. Why are you miserable? You want to be doing something and you're not doing it. Why not, you know?
I'm not proud of it, but I do have to admit that I did resent her for a little while just because of the sheer monumental amount of change she represented very unexpectedly.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, very shortly. I mean, because she was unexpected, I was already about 2 months along when I realized I was pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, she came 2 months early.
Oh.
So I had about 5 months to wrap my head around all of this.
That's a lot for somebody to deal with, you know? And it takes time to deal with that stuff, not just in the, like, short-term, like, damage control, okay, this is happening, what do we do right now, but also what did the effort to get that stuff done cost us in terms of energy, in terms of missed opportunities, in terms of how do we offset that? How do we catch back up, you know? And it's the sort of thing that it doesn't happen quickly. It's
No.
You're kind of going into, even if it's not actual financial debt, when you take on a big responsibility like this, other things slide. And you're creating a weird kind of responsibility debt. All the things that you kind of let slide to deal with this crisis, or this, I don't want to say crisis, but, like, it's a surprise opportunity. When you have one big high energy surprise opportunity, your brain does go into kind of crisis mode, and you put things off in order to prioritize dealing with what's immediately in front of you. And then all of those things do take time to resolve and deal with afterwards. And, you know, so that's another reason that you can, or that for me, that I could feel like I was exhausted, because not only was I tired from the day-to-day of taking care of a child, but also dealing with just all the stuff that kind of I was behind on now that I slowly had to catch back up on, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was just kind of, everything was happening at once around the time she was born. I mean, I was about 3 weeks after I found out I was pregnant. We actually had to move back in with my mother because we were doing some renovations to the house, and they were extensive enough we couldn't be in the house while that was happening.
Oh, geez, that's rough.
So I had this moment of, I'm over 30, I'm pregnant, and I just moved back in with my mother. What happened to my life? Yeah. And that was my 10 seconds of sheer panic.
Well, and it's weird too, because little stuff like that, like, okay, you're renovating a home. That's a pretty cool investment. That's a way that people are moving forward with their lives, you know? You are doing something proactive, you're taking control of your environment. But because of that element of going back to your parents' house, which, hey, having a free place to stay while you are renovating, that's awesome. But at the same time, it's still on a gut level can feel really wrong. Like
Oh, yeah.
when I moved into my new apartment, this building is bizarre. I don't know what architect made these decisions or who signed off on them, but there was no way to get my box spring into my bedroom. And so it was just out in the dining room and I was like, I know I have to just go over there and unstaple the upholstery and take a saw to it and then basically nail it back together once I get it in the room. But like after all the effort of moving, after the divorce, moving into a new place, even though the new place is better and like I should be like, oh, I'm so proud of myself for taking control or whatever, just the fact that I kept waking up on a mattress on the floor in the morning for the first few weeks because I just didn't have the energy to do everything that was more urgent and to also cut a box spring in half and reupholster it after, you know, like waking up on the floor every day. I'm like, oh no, I'm a divorced single dad. I'm sleeping on a mattress on the floor. Oh no, I'm never going to recover from this. Even though everything else I was doing was actively taking steps to recover from it. Just, it's real easy to just not feel it because you're feeling that just, like despair might be the wrong word, but in some ways it might be. It's because it's an irrational despair that sometimes when progress looks like failure too much.
Yes. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
You feel overwhelmed already. Those two things meet in a really scary way, you know?
They absolutely can. And it doesn't, you could be doing something for all the absolute correct reasons. But it just, you phrase it the wrong way and suddenly it doesn't look good at all.
Mm-mm. And so, staying with your parents while you're renovating. Like, I was actually thinking about this the other day. I was talking to some of my neighbors who own their own homes, and like, I'm like, it's one of those things where most of the people in my age group didn't have kids as early as my ex and I did, and so most of my quote unquote like peers at my daughter's school, like the other parents her age, or of kids her age, they're like 5-10 years older than me and, you know, deep into professional careers and stuff. And so, you know, there, like, I talked to two people leaving her school, dropping her off one morning. I talked to two people in a row who were just like, oh yeah, haven't had the kitchen working in 3 weeks because of this renovation, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I have never lived in a place where the kitchen didn't work because my parents could never afford to renovate. And like, I can't imagine being at that, like, it would be so cool to be at the point where my kitchen didn't work for 3 weeks because like I'm saying this because like to me, like when you say, hey, yeah, we're renovating, it might not seem like a big deal to you, but like to some people it's like that's really cool. That's really adult and mature and responsible of you.
It was absolutely a big deal, and I have to admit that I think the only time, no, actually, no. That writing the checks to the company that did the renovation are literally the biggest checks I have ever written in my life. It is terrifying writing a check for that amount.
Yes, like, oh no, is the bank gonna allow this?
Basically,
yeah.
But yeah, I mean. But I mean, we are actually going to be a little bit in that flip situation when she gets to school in a couple of years here. All the other parents are probably going to be a fair bit younger than we are, because we had kids so late.
Oh, that makes sense. Yeah, because I was 25 or so when my daughter was born, and so yeah, it's and I think some of it has to do with like. It's funny because my brother, who's 10 years younger than me, a lot of his friends are all having kids right out of college, but I graduated in 2008, right when that recession hit. And so everybody that I knew, even if they wanted kids, were like, nope, not a good time, you know, put it off basically until now. And
Yeah, I mean, I was about the age the age you were when your daughter was born. I was about that age when my husband and I got married,
hmm
and we tried to have kids right away.
hmm
But of course, aforementioned fertility problems, etc.
yeah.
And I was getting ready to turn, I can't even remember now, 34 or 35 when my daughter was born.
Well, the thing is, you've built up years of goodwill. Okay, I think that to kind of round back to what I was saying earlier, you know, somebody who has a kid at 22 hasn't had the opportunities that you've had in life to reach out and meet cool people and do stuff. So even though you're kind of on a pause from doing as much cool stuff and traveling as much and meeting as many people, all that stuff you did earlier still counts,
It it does, and it's certainly a tough thing to admit it sometimes. It feels like going back to square zero.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing too, is you got to kind of ask yourself, how do I, as my kid starts to mature and I start having new opportunities, what could I do with an extra 3 hour session a week? What could I do with an extra hour a week? Or start with 3 hours a month, because I mean, in terms of long-term sanity, for people who are like intrinsically very social and creative, having a kid can be really isolating if you, because even though some people are like, oh yeah, I had a kid, now all of a sudden I'm super social because I'm doing all these activities with other parents and stuff. It's like, yeah, that's fine maybe when your kid's doing t-ball, if you're really into t-ball or whatever, but like when your kid is 2 or 3, like if you're not in some sort of like young parent church group thing, which I mean, those things do exist, but like they weren't really for me. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, and nothing else too. I mean, she was born all of what, less than a year or
Mm-hmm.
so before the pandemic hit.
Oh yeah, and all that stuff shut down. Well,
Yeah, and at this point, I mean, originally when I knew I was going to be having a kid, it's like, okay, 3, 4 years, I can do 3, 4 years, and when she starts going to school, then things will be great, and I can have a couple hours a day to do real things, and that'll work out.
mm-hmm.
And now I'm almost just dreading her getting to the age of going to school, but at the same time, I know it needs to happen because she has shown at every opportunity she has, she needs that socialization.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I gotta say, like, um, I really learned a lot during the pandemic because my daughter was, I guess, in first grade when the pandemic hit, like the second half of first grade, and then she spent all of second grade doing remote learning on the computer at home. And I was working remote initially for my old day job, and then eventually doing Minecraft and HermitCraft and stuff, basically for as much as I could. People are like, "Are you full time on HermitCraft now?" And I'm like, "Kind of." But like a full time job is 40 hours a week, and I don't know if I'm able to put in the full 40 while helping her with all her school stuff and all that. Like, it's really hard for a kid to do school remotely, and like I know some people swear by homeschooling, but if you're a parent who has creative inclinations, like once she went back to school, being able to drop her off at school and then say, okay, I'm going to just focus on my creative stuff. And then, you know what, 3 o'clock rolls around, I could pick her up from school now that I'm self-employed, right? And I could say, okay, let's go to the park. I'm going to bring a book, and so if there's other kids around, you can play with them. If not, maybe you and I can do something. But, I would try and give her opportunities to not just constantly be around me.
Yeah.
But, like, you can still have really quality time with your kid after school every day if you can get the discipline to get stuff done while they're at school. And practicing now with, okay, I have 1 hour to get stuff done a week on stream. Just, hey, it's Morvy's Power Hour, like first Saturday of every month from noon to 1. It's lunch Morv something. You see what can I get done in 1 hour every day, And then when they go off to school, you're like, okay, I've got a few more hours now. You can still get everything done around the house. I mean, I have a sign that I put up during my stream that says hydration break, but like half the time I'm actually going and moving stuff from the washer to the dryer. I'm doing laundry during the streams. Sometimes I load the dishwasher. I run back up to the studio and I turn the music off and I keep going because like I'm responsible for everything. I got to keep the plate spinning. But you know, if I only did that stuff and rested, I wouldn't feel like I'm the person I'm supposed to be. And then that would be setting a bad example for my daughter, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And to be fair, I already feel like I'm setting bad examples for her, but luckily my husband's a little bit more, well, I mean, the pandemic in its own way has been a little bit of a blessing in disguise because he was able to go full remote during the pandemic. So he got that opportunity that not a lot of dads get to see her through those early years. But which is good because it turns out I'm not very good with babies.
Oh, no.
I'm good with small children and I'm great with teenagers, but apparently I'm not that great with babies. But
I mean, honestly, not everybody has like a natural inclination for it. That's kind of, you know, one of those, I would almost want to say a sexist myth, you know, that like, oh, you'll just naturally be good at this or whatever. And it's like, no.
It's like, oh yeah, it'll things will kick in and you'll figure it out. And like, yeah, I figured out that I kind of hate this stage.
Well, hey, do you mind if I take a second to thank a couple people who have tipped during the stream?
Go for it.
Okay, thank you so much to, first off, Samuel for tipping 5, who says, I'm 25 and one of the first of my friends to have kids, and it's frustrating to have them just not really understand or not really get it, so I'm enjoying this talk. Yeah, my friends, it was the same way. Most of my friends still don't have kids, but yeah, it's hard. It's isolating. Also, we got a $10 tip from Alex who says, I recently took a job teaching 2-year-olds and with some subbing for the 1-years. Kids need all the socializing they can get. It's hard, though, when the kid hasn't been away from their parent before. Yeah, I'm sure with the pandemic, there's a lot of that. But either way, that puts us evenly at our next face camera expansion milestone. We've been streaming. This is our third stream of the day. Technically fourth, because one of them was a tech check stream where I had to restart everything in the middle. But either way, that's going to put us at our 5th face camera expansion. So here we go. Y'all have seen that money go straight to my head with each face camera expansion up to now. But now, like Jacob Marley, these chains I forged in life are about to begin pulling me down to the deep below. Enter the joust. Bum, 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 bum. Morvy, have you actually seen any of the weird face camera stuff I do on stream before? I don't know.
No, I have not, but I'm seeing it now on Twitch, and it is interesting.
Yeah, it's basically every time I hit a tipping milestone on the abacus here, which is $20 tipping milestones at the beginning, the face camera gets bigger, and then once we hit the 5th expansion, every time the face camera gets slightly easier to see through. And then I've got all sorts of other stuff here, like I've got... like, sometimes if I'm having a bad acne day, like I kind of am today, I might put on this wig. Got a green screen wig I can just put on and cover that up, and, you know, that's cool. One less thing to worry about. But, yeah, let's see.
See, I usually don't have... I never think to do any of that sort of thing because with my streams, I famously never have a camera.
No, that's fair. I mean, this is the sort of thing, though, I really... Until the divorce, I wasn't really comfortable asking for money because I was just like, I'm just putting this out there. People can see the link if they want and tip. But then I was like, okay, I'm a single parent now who is the primary caregiver for a child. When the divorce first happened, my ex was still a grad student, and grad students make so little money that even though I was the primary caregiver, I was still paying her child support because judges kind of want both households to have, like, heat and electricity.
The basic things to make sure a child will be safe in them, yes.
Yeah, and it's not the state's job to provide that, it's mine. So, yeah, it was kind of one of those things where it's like, oh no, I need to start asking for money or I'm going to be in trouble here. And so fortunately the stream has been really cool, and I tried to find fun little goofy ways to show the tips throughout the stream. But yeah,
I'm never comfortable asking for money myself because I mean, I do have the good fortune to be in a position where we can do things like renovate a house in a major fashion. I don't need the money. Give it to. I tell people to. I appreciate it. If you really want to give it to me, I'll take it. But I would rather you give it to somebody who actually needs it more than I do.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that the big thing to remember is that, like, streaming for some people is a side hustle, but for some people it's just a hobby. Like, when I first started streaming, I never expected to make any money off streaming. I did it because it was a fun way to hang out with cool people, and it still is. And so, like, it's really important when you're in that kind of isolation era of having a young kid. Sorry, the wig is, like, in my mouth. Like, there's, like, one hair that keeps poking my tongue.
Like my daughter's bangs.
Oh my gosh. I keep thinking I've got it. Okay, I got it. I did get it that time. But core concept, like, whether or not, you know, you're self-sustaining financially otherwise, it's important for every parent to have hobbies that they can share with their kid in some ways, but that are really primarily theirs. You know, so, like, my daughter doesn't really enjoy a lot of the Minecraft stuff I do. She watches some of it. Like, you know, some Saturday afternoon, she's like, "Hey, Dad, do you want to stream? I want to have some popcorn and sit on the couch and just watch." And I'm like, "Okay, yeah, that's fine." And, you know, sometimes I'm like, "How much did you actually watch?" She's like, the first, like, 45 minutes. And I'm like, "That's fine." Like, you know, but in some ways, it's just good for me to show her, like, it's okay for me to do things for me, because then when she's a parent, she doesn't feel guilty about doing things for her, you know? Like,
that is definitely an example I wish I had. I'll put it that way.
and I will say that's not a example that that's an example that I have seen lacking in other branches of her family.
Yeah.
And I saw kind of how negative that was, and wanted to make sure that that was a priority, you know. But yeah, it's kind of one of those things where having a hobby, whether or not it's streaming or painting, or even if you just really liked sailing, you know what? There might be some days that you take your kids sailing with you, but there might be some days that you just want to get out on the water, you know? And if you don't do that, if you give up something that's a big part of how you deal with the stresses of everyday life, just because you have a kid, which is now adding more stresses to your everyday life, you're going to kind of, like, on a physiological level, start failing to do a good job. You just need to find outlets for that. And so, like, I guess I'm trying to... I might be saying things you already know, and so some of this is for the general audience, but, like, it's okay to have hobbies and responsibilities. In fact, the more responsibilities you have, the more important it is to have hobbies, because the worse the consequences are if you don't have them. Because if you screw up when you have a lot of responsibilities, it's a lot worse than screwing up when you have no responsibilities.
To go off of a comment I see on your Twitch channel from Super Cool, I believe.
Sure.
They say you don't stop being a person when you're a parent. And while this is absolutely 100% true, I don't think people who have not had children can appreciate how much it feels like all you are is a parent when you're a primary caregiver.
Yeah. It's a lot. It's a lot of responsibility. And the thing is, like, when people tell you, like, oh, you can deal with it, you can do it, they're not necessarily wrong, but you have to take advantage of every tool available to you, and one of those tools is your hobbies. That is one of the things that enables you to deal with the rough times. Being able to just say, well, you know what? I'm going to do a fun stream with my friends on Saturday. Let's say that you were like, hey, ForgeCraft crew or whatever, why don't we do a round of Among Us on Saturday? Because I've got a streaming window from noon to 2 or something. You know, baby's going to be at grandma's. Let's just pal around and play Among Us. You know what? Maybe Among Us isn't the biggest revenue generating game on Twitch right now, but you don't need the revenue. You just want an excuse to hang out with your friends. And more importantly, if you don't start making excuses to just pal around with your friends, in the long term, you're going to suffer and you're going to do a worse job as a parent. And I don't just mean you in particular, but, like, any parent will
I
struggle
have
with this.
we have a friend of ours that comes around most Saturday evenings at this point to play Gloomhaven and other board games with us.
Oh, fantastic.
And I cannot tell you how much that helped when that started. It's a usually he'll usually come around a couple hours before baby's bedtime, and will and those first couple hours will be a little chaotic because she's excited because her uncle's there, and the game's out, all those things she's not supposed to play with. But then it's just great to feel like myself again for a few hours after she's gotten put to bed, and we can just be a group of friends playing a board game.
It's just so vital, and so yeah, I guess, like, I feel like we're kind of almost at the point where if I don't stop myself, I'm going to start talking circles around this. I feel like I've explained this in a way you obviously understand. I've over-explained it to make sure anybody out in the audience who doesn't speak English as a first language has the opportunity to understand it. Also, please don't feel like at any time I'm patronizing you, Morvy, but, like, it's kind of one of those things where, like, with a big audience, sometimes
we
I
are
have
talking. We're covering all the things, crossing T's, dotting I's, just so that everybody who needs to hear something in particular hears that thing they need to hear.
Yeah, it's just one of those things. But, like, so if you feel ready, what were some of the other questions or things that you wanted to discuss with me about parenting and streaming and all that?
I have to admit that I didn't actually have questions figured out because it all sort of was encompassed in, okay, I see you doing the thing I want to be able to do, which is continue to stream and make videos and all that as a parent. How?
That's okay. That's okay.
Much what the question.
My goal in asking this was, it's not that I'm incapable of continuing to talk. Believe me, I can talk.
Yes.
I just wanted to make sure if you had any high priority items that, like, you know, you had been, like, stressing out about, or maybe talk to your spouse about, and then, you know, like, oh, you know, I just really need to figure out how to attack this element or this problem. And then you get done with the call and your spouse is like, so what did Joe say about that particular thing that you were really stressed out about? And you're like, oh no, I didn't ask, or it didn't come up. Oh no, he kept talking about himself and his kid, that selfish clown, you know?
No, it's fine. But yeah, I know. There was a thought there. Where did it go? Mom brain.
Yeah, I believe it. I really still feel like I'm recovering from the 9 months of sleep deprivation I had when our daughter didn't sleep through the night for 9 months straight.
I am very lucky that mine figured out sleeping through the night by like 5 months old. Mm-hmm. I was so lucky in that. There's a lot of things about my daughter that I think I am very lucky in. She's been fairly independent from the get-go. Mm-hmm. She's smart as a whip.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Which is going to be great. Well, it's going to be a double-edged sword when she's older, but still great.
Yeah.
And she's where are my thoughts going? I swear.
Well, do you need a second? Because I actually just got a tip that I could read if you need to collect yourself. Hey, thank you very much to Elliot for tipping 40. That is going to get you 2 face camera expansions. And Elliot writes, my partner came down with the flu at the end of last week, and now I have it too. We've been watching a lot of your streams. Thanks. Also, tell the viewers to wash their hands. Yeah, definitely wash your hands, y'all. So thank you very much, Elliot, for that. That's going to get you 2 face camera expansions. So here we go. Expand Joe. Do. Oh my gosh. That I was not expecting that free the end sound to come in. I don't know if you could hear that, but somebody just did something in game. Okay. So we're going to lower the Joe opacity now to 80% for that first expansion. And then here we go. Grow hills. Lowering the Joe opacity now to 70%. So, Morvy, the way this works is the camera keeps getting bigger, but also slightly more transparent.
Aha.
And so the next step, which we're $20 away from, tips are welcome via paypal.me/showhills and YouTube Super Chat, is the absolute worst in terms of visibility. Everybody tipping up until this point and into that one is making the camera harder to see through. But beyond that, it starts getting easier because by the point my face is covering the whole stream or screen, reducing the opacity can only help, and it getting bigger won't matter, you know? People are saying "you selfish clown" is a great insult. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, let's see. Fridays writes in chat, I feel you on the sleep issue. Ours didn't sleep for 8 weeks. We tried everything. Yeah, it can be a lot. Like, I will say one thing that when my daughter finally did start sleeping through the night, she has been growing like crazy. She's super tall. And there was a time we took her in for the physical, and the doctor's like, I don't want you to freak out. And I'm like, oh no. You know, this is never good when the doctor's like, I don't want you to freak out about this. And it's like, okay. And the doctor's like, your daughter's in the 95th percentile for weight in her age group. And I'm like, that seems high, but she doesn't look like she's unhealthy. And the doctor goes, no, not at all, because she's in the 93rd percentile for height. So it's great. And I'm like, awesome. Okay. Like, maybe lead with that. Like, but anyways,
I mean, even being a preemie, mine, it was a struggle at first just to get her into the first percentile in weight. She was tiny. Luckily, that was the only thing we needed extra care for in the beginning was just to get some weight on her. But she's also just long, and at this point getting taller every time I turn around. So
well, you're in good shape then, because here's my lead in there. Is it turns out kids that are growing fast like that tend to start sleeping really hard. So, you know, you're talking about how your office is really close to her bedroom. Well, like, once my kid hit, like, I don't know, let's see, she's 9 now. I would say once she hit 6 or 7, which is 3 years away for you. I understand that. I'm not, but like really.
Well, the same time, where has the last 3 years gone? I don't remember.
Exactly. Like you know, I'm talking about like long-term streaming stuff. Like once she hit a certain point, she had a hard time falling asleep if there was any noise at all. She would come out of her room and be like, don't you people understand? I'm trying to sleep. Blah, 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 blah. But once she was down, it's like, you could throw a party and she would just be out. And so
once she gets there, at this point she is definitely a heavy sleeper. But I don't think it's difficult to for her to get to sleep so much as it just has the world's biggest case of FOMO. She wants to be involved in everything.
And so that's one of those things too, where it's like on some level, you know, one of the things that I would make a point of was not doing anything interesting when she was falling asleep. It's like, okay, now's my quiet reading time, you know? And so she came out, it's like, what's daddy do? Oh, he's just sitting next to a low lamp looking at a book. Okay. I'm not missing anything here, you know? But it's kind of one of those things where, once your kid starts sleeping harder like that, you know, it's easy to start scheduling like, hey, I'm going to do Morvy's 1 hour chill stream between, you know, 8:30 and 9:30 or something. Obviously, you want to spend time with your spouse too, and that's going to depend on like their schedule. Like my ex, as a PhD student, always had stuff to do. So, you know, it was kind of easier for me to find time in some ways than it might be for some people. But, you know, if you could talk to your spouse about figuring out a schedule where they don't feel left out, but you also like, okay, 2-3 nights a week, you're like, okay, I'm just going to get a 1 hour stream in before bed, and it'll be high intensity. I'll try to plan stuff in advance with my friends. So like, hey, you come hang out with me on Tuesday and you come hang out with me on Thursday, and then we'll all be in bed by 9:30 because we're exhausted, you know?
I may actually try it the other way around a little bit now that I'm thinking about it. Most of my my regulars, as you say, are actually Europeans, because for a good chunk of time in the middle of my live streaming, the core of my live streaming, my husband had a job where he took the bus to work, so I would get up in the morning, take him to the park and ride, drop him off for his bus, come back home, and then start live streaming. So the core people I had for a long time there got very used to seeing me start at 7 a.m. Pacific. And sometimes she's up by then, sometimes she's not. So maybe I'll just try to make a point of, if she's not awake yet by that point in time, have an hour in the morning.
Yeah, and like, if you have like a morning routine where you like make yourself coffee and chill, you could say, hey, it's Morvy's coffee hour. You know, kick off your work day, or if you're in Europe, come on home and hang out. I'm just going to play something and just show up to some degree. Like, that's, you know, just people seeing that you're still out there. Okay, you can't do exactly what you used to do at the intensity level you used to do it, but realistically, that would be an unreasonable expectation, you know? Like, you just don't want people going, oh, I thought you died. Like,
there may be a few of those, but at least my core group knows I'm still. I mean, to be fair, some of the very very core group of people from my streams, they really became kind of like internet family to me there. But that's just also just part of the effect of branching out into Final Fantasy 14, I think, because we made a guild, and then you know how guilds and MMOs can become family.
Yeah. And it's one of those things too, like with HermitCraft, you know, I play with the same people. Some of these folks I've been playing with for 5 to 10 years, you know? And like, we just had a 3-month hiatus, and that was really hard on me in a lot of ways, because one of the ways, like, you know, the argument for taking a break like that is, well, everybody's stressed out from the pandemic. Everybody needs a vacation. And I'm like, but this is my vacation. Like, all of the stresses of being a single parent that I have to deal with, I get to look forward to playing Minecraft with y'all. That is what, like, I know for some of you, this is a job where you're putting twice as many hours into it as I can. Not even as I do. It's like, I just, you know, and like, because and some of them are just like, look, you know, if you want your channel to take off, you just need to put another 15, 25 hours a week into it. And I'm like, I don't need my channel to take off. I need to make rent every month.
Yeah, I don't necessarily need my channel to take off either. I just want to get back to hanging out with my friends, whether they're the friends I play with or whether they're the friends that show up each day to say hello and how things are doing in the stream chat. And I mean, probably my best friend that I have made through streaming has got to be Direwolf20. He's probably my best friend. And that man is a machine.
Yeah,
I swear.
Yeah, every time I've gotten to hang out with him at conventions, he's always just a great person to be around and speak with. And he's somebody, I gotta say, I haven't done a good job of keeping up with him, because I haven't seen him since Minecon Nashville. Yeah, that was a weird experience, having everybody in my town for a weekend. Even though it was technically one of the online Minecons, they streamed it out of Nashville.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's Dyer's a great guy, but he's an example of somebody who, like, I just haven't had the time to keep up with. And it's in no way a judgment on him. It's an indictment of, like, how hard it is to juggle all my responsibilities. It's like, I could send Direwolf a message, and some people are like, oh my god, he's my hero. How could you have the ability to do that and then not do that? And it's like, you don't understand how busy I am. You don't understand how tired.
They also probably don't understand how busy he is too.
No.
I don't want to be the person telling tales, but I mean, he is also a parent.
Yeah.
He has his own full-time job that he holds down.
Yep.
And on top of that, he still manages to put out at least one half-hour YouTube video every weekday.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what I'll say, though, is, you know, if you do something where you're, like, trying to get, like, a game night or something together with Dyer or other people I know, the Feed the Beast people or whatever, like, don't hesitate to reach out to me. If it, like, obviously if it's just you and I are palling around, don't. But like if you're like, hey, we're playing Among Us and we need 10 people, Joe, do you want to be one of the 10 people? I'd be happy to, play with y'all. And
Okay.
because honestly, like, PAX was where I saw the Feed the Beast crew, and I just haven't done a good job of keeping up with anybody.
Yeah, it probably wouldn't be too many of the Feed the Beast people. I've kind of fallen out of that group, as it were, but neither here nor there.
Sure. But I guess what I'm saying is, if you're thinking of something to organize, please reach out to me, because even though I'm super busy, these are the things that, like I said, like all the advice I'm trying to give you is advice I also need to follow.
Yeah,
And
I will do my best. I can say though that I am one of the many streamers who in reality is super introverted.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one of the things about my daughter that I got somewhat lucky on, and somewhat cursed on.
Yeah.
Is that she is so outgoing.
Mm-hmm.
When I realized that, I was very happy about it, because I'm like, oh, I can train her just to be my little tank in social situations.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's going to be paying attention to me anymore.
Yay.
I can hide. But then the pandemic came, and there have been no social situations, so I have to be the one to help her through all of that social energy.
Oh no. Well, and that's one of those things too, where like if you aren't used to like if you're introverted and you're used to always being around people too much, all of a sudden not being around people at all is weird, because you don't necessarily have the experience of going like, oh, I know how to deal with not being around people enough. Or
yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Before pandemic and baby, my husband would go off to work in the mornings, and I would be, aside from the live stream, I would be myself all day for several hours, and I got very used to that. And then suddenly, now I have a baby. Oh, look, it's a pandemic. Now my husband is home all day, every day as well.
yeah.
But then there's days like today where he goes back into the office for the day, and my daughter was at her grandparents', and I was like, this is my day to rest and relax, or to get something done. This is my chance to do things. And I have no idea what to do with myself.
The problem is that you kind of need just complete downtime recovery days when you're first trying to pull out of this. Hey,
Yeah.
Welcome, Arrow Sparrow Raiders. Thank you for bringing folks over this way. My name is Joe Hills. I'm broadcasting live from Nashville, Tennessee, here on the HermitCraft server. If you hear any crazy noises, that's because my friend Cub Fan is fighting the dragon at the moment. Also, I've got a guest tonight. Morvelaira and I are talking about parenting and streaming and being creative. Morvy, before we jump back into it, I should also thank, we got a tip here from Catherine for 20, who says, keep on keeping on, friend. You always have such interesting combos in stream. That is going to put us evenly at the next face camera expansion milestone. So here we go. It's time to expand Joe. Do. So we are now at the most obnoxious face camera expansion milestone, the Tony Stark helmet cam. I warned you. It's a lot. But you know what? The funny thing is, on the VODs, YouTube's always like, oh, this is the thumbnail. This is what people want. The algorithm demands it. So, there we are.
You may have just stumbled upon the next trending YouTube thing without even thinking about it.
I'm the best at what I do. Hey, welcome, Janie Laney. Glad you could join us. Let's see. We are, so to kind of get back to the conversation, sometimes our kids are unlike us in fun and surprising ways. And so, I'm glad that, you're lucky to have a kid who's so extroverted, and hopefully as things get safer out there, that'll be less of a challenge and more of a blessing.
Yes.
Because
I mean, we did take a risk this last holiday season. We did go to a Disney this holiday season. And she made it a point to hug every other person her size she came across. And every other kid there that age was the same.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, and it's one of those things too that's it's challenging because like there was this window between when I got vaccinated and when my kid was able to get vaccinated, where all my friends are like, pandemic's over, let's go pal around, and I'm like, but I can't bring my child. Like,
yeah. I mean, at the beginning, it was like, yeah, but my mom is immunocompromised, and I have a child under 5, and
yeah, it's just like, what do you, like, I know people want to treat this like it's over, but if your kids can't get vaccinated yet, that's scary. Like, and so my daughter actually got COVID between getting her first shot and her second shot. And I had already gotten both of my shots, but I got it too, and it was rough.
yeah, knock on wood, we have not had COVID in this house yet.
Yeah, I recommend avoiding it, because
that is the plan.
as somebody who like constantly was like, I can't imagine being more tired, I learned what it was to be more tired. It was possible, it turned out. Yeah, it was very possible to be more tired. And
yeah, the one thing I've learned over the years is it's always possible.
yeah, so obviously whatever you need to do to like take good care of yourself and your child, do it. Not that you need my permission for any of that. But yeah. A lot of this stream is just me telling other parents like, this is all difficult and terrible. Just, you're doing okay.
Yeah,
Don't stress too much. Like, make time for yourself, make time for your kid. You know, I don't know. But yeah, like, so in terms of what you would consider your streaming goals, and I hate when people ask me this question because I don't like setting numeric goals in general, and since the pandemic started, I've just flat out refused. I'm like, if I set any sort of goals for myself during the pandemic, they're going to be unrealistic because every variable is so askew right now. Like,
yeah,
you can't. So people are like, what is your follower goal, or what do you want in terms of subscribers on YouTube? It's like, I had to actually, I was talking to Cleo today, my friend Zombie Cleo, for those of y'all who don't know, and I was talking about how I didn't realize when, like, I had stopped streaming on Twitch for a few years, and I had like 5,400 or so followers on Twitch at the time. And then I get a tweet one day congratulating me on hitting 50,000 after I started streaming on Twitch again a few years later. And I just had no idea that I had grown an order of magnitude in viewers because I don't look at the numbers, because that seems like an unhealthy thing. Like, if my goal is to stream for my mental health so that I can enjoy life more, I shouldn't be fixated on numbers and stuff. So I kind of want to ask you, what are your stream goals, but like in a non-numeric way? What is it that you're hoping to get out of streaming and that sort of thing?
I have always wanted to feel like I was popular and that like people were liking what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
And that is what has always been for me. I made the mistake, as many streamers do at one point, well, many points probably here, that I equated the number of followers or the amount of money that was coming in as with oh, not as many people are showing up, they don't like me anymore, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I am one of those people, like I said, very introverted, never had a lot of friends that stuck around.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the friends I have made through streaming, I have had for the longest period of my life. It's strange and wonderful, all at the same time. And I want more of that, pretty much.
Yeah. Well, and here's how, like, I found it's really interesting talking to people from a different generation than us about streaming, which this is a conversation between two people that are basically in the same age group that had kids roughly around the same time. Like, my kid's 6 years older, and Morvy and I are about the same age, but we're pretty close in age. But like, when I talk to my dad about what I do, like, he didn't grow up, like, he loved computers. He had, whatever computers he could get as early as he could get them, but for the most part, like, they weren't really a thing when he was a kid. Whoa, that's a magma cube. I'm gonna get rid of... Oh my gosh, everybody is making trouble for me. I don't want trubs. There's like a whole song about no scrubs. I want no trubs. But like for my dad, he didn't grow up with the internet as we have it, and even though he was an early adopter for a lot of these technologies, his understanding of them is definitely shaped by how he grew up and when he grew up. And so, like, me explaining to him, like, yeah, okay, so I'm able to go full time on this now because, since the pandemic, I started, like, since I didn't have to commute, I was able to put more energy into streaming every night of the week. And, people couldn't go out and do stuff. And so I kind of said, hey, and including me, I was annoyed that I couldn't go out with my friends because the whole time that I was the primary caregiver for my daughter when my ex was in grad school, I constantly was saying, oh, I can't go out. I got to watch my daughter, blah, blah, blah. And then finally it's like, okay, well, with this divorce, there'll be a few weekends occasionally where I'm not responsible for my child. She's going to be with her mom. And for the first time in her life and mine, like, I just have a weekend off here and there. And I'm going to go enjoy that. I'm going to go out and I'm going to do things and it's going to be great for me. And then the pandemic hits and I never got to do that. And I was like, well, I feel I was already stressed out about not being able to leave my apartment for 5-6 years before the pandemic hit. And then that hits and I'm like, oh no, this is going to be a couple more years of that when I thought I was at the end of the tunnel. And so I was like, I'm just going to stream every night because it gives me something to look forward to every day and I can hang out with people and you know what? They can't go out either and it'll give them something to look forward to. And I didn't know that it was going to be as financially, like, good as it was. I just wanted, hey, let's all not go insane during a pandemic because that would be good for everyone,
Lack of insanity, or at least insanity at proper levels, is preferable, yes.
Yeah, and so I was kind of going into this with that mindset, and I explained this to my dad, and his read on that was he's like, okay, so you, like, opened a bar in the neighborhood. And I'm like, yeah, kind of. Like, and he's like, and it's not your whole job, or at least it wasn't at first. So basically you bought a bar that closed down and you said, I'm going to open it up every night after work and people can come hang out. And I'm like, that's really close. I mean, that's kind of it is like, it's Cheers. You want to go somewhere everyone knows your name,
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, I remember the way that I explained it to my grandmother was that I have a public access television show on the internet about video games.
Yeah.
And she got that right away when I finally figured out how to explain it that way. But I don't know how many people, even my age, even remember what public access TV shows are.
I mean, hey, a lot of great things started on public access. But real quick, I want to say thank you very much to Centauratron, who tips 5 and says, a little from me and my mom. Thanks for all the fun streams. Well, thank you, Centauratron. That puts us 15 away from the next face camera expansion. If y'all are tired of the most obnoxious face camera, everybody who tipped up to this point has gotten it this obnoxious. You can make it better. So, yeah, we are 15 away from that. So let's see. Wittershin says, your dad thinks you're Sam Malone. I mean, I'll take it. Like, because his original understanding of what I did... So my dad went to high school with Lady Gaga's father, who's like a very famous musician here in the United States. And...
It's a side note, my mom apparently went to high school with Angela Bassett, so there's that.
Nice. So my dad's understanding of, like, me starting a YouTube channel, he's like, oh, well, Lady Gaga's dad... I saw on Facebook that his daughter bought him a restaurant. How good is this YouTube thing going? And I'm like, it's not buying you a restaurant good.
Yeah, it's not restaurant good, no.
Like, I'm sorry, Dad, but, like, I think Lady Gaga's dad sent her to, like, Juilliard or something. And so on some level, this is your fault. Like, you want a restaurant, you gotta do a little bit more. So, yeah, here we are. Okay. Oh, what is it? Yeah, he doesn't actually say Lady Gaga's dad. He calls him Germ because it's short for
Jermaine?
Germanetti,
Oh,
Germinati or something. Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, I never really got what my dad's take on the whole streaming thing was because he unfortunately passed right when I was starting to get into it. So,
Gotcha.
um, and my mom always kind of seemed to look at it as um, the thing I did to keep me busy as a housewife. So it was one of those she meant well kind of things, you know.
Well, and like I will say that my no longer father-in-law, I guess father-ex-law, his understanding of it, like at first he was just like, I don't get this at all. And then, he was talking to me about the math on it, and I'm like, well, I spend about $600 a month on at that point I was renting a studio downstairs from my office at my day job so that I could stream on my lunch break. Because that was the only way I could get streaming time was to stream for 45 minutes on my lunch break. I would run down the stairs from my day job to my like little tiny office that I rented in the same building and then sprint back up the stairs at the end of the stream. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, so I spend about $600 a month on rent and I make about $600 a month. So it's a break-even hobby. And
Yeah, I mean, and to be fair, the way I generally do look at it as far as money goes, is that as long as I have enough money stored up in the account that I keep the money I make from streaming in to buy that next upgrade when it's time for that next computer upgrade or to buy that next game I want to play,
yeah.
then I'm coming out of it ahead.
Well, and that was, but so I guess to kind of get back to what I was trying to explain though was his read on it was okay. Well, I know a bunch of guys at my work who they spend $600 a month on golf, and they don't make $600 a month back.
Yeah.
So if he's spending $600 a month on his hobby, but he's making $600 a month on his hobby, and it's not really hurting anybody, it doesn't matter if I understand it or not, And it's like, okay, I'll take it. Like, compared to the, general disapproval I've experienced for the last decade otherwise, like, this is nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if anybody could point me in the direction of where I should be using beds to mine, I'm guessing that way. But yeah, chat, I'm kind of just, I was trying to find a place that I could bed mine for netherite. Because I think a lot of people have automated diamond machines for their shops, and I want to pay with netherite so it breaks them, because I'm a bad person. I will overpay in order to accidentally break things. So, yeah, I don't really have any use for any netherite at this point in the game, because I'm not really going for gearing up, but...
I haven't played Minecraft in long enough. I have no idea what netherite is.
Oh, it's like a diamond upgrade that you get in the nether.
Okay, that makes sense.
But you know what? You could do a whole series of just going into Minecraft blind. Look at all the stuff they added! Ah!
Yeah, it's just like, what do I do now?
Oh no. It's too much. Okay, so it looks like the problem is here that I would fall into the lava below. So I don't think I want to do that. I think maybe I'm better off trying to find a shaft that leads up to the sky. Okay, that guy is going to kill me for not wearing gold, so we're not going over there. Okay. Let's see. So yeah, do any of y'all have any questions? I mean, because Morvy and I can kind of keep riffing, but if y'all have, I feel like we've provided enough kind of background on the situation and what we're describing now that people could start making informed interjections or interrogatives. Interrogatives sounds a lot better than interrogations. Don't interrogate Morvy.
If you are going to interrogate me, I demand the comfy pillow.
Oh no. Let's go ahead and put some blackstone down here so I don't accidentally blow myself up with the bed. I think that this should work.
Kindle SMC, Morvelaira right there. That is my Twitch.
Yeah, you know what? I should VIP you so you can post links to stuff so that I don't die in the nether trying to do it.
I oh, I actually am logged in. That'll work.
Okay. Yes, you are now VIP'd. Okay, see, this is what I was worried about, is down here, there's a lot of death down here. Also, I'm realizing I only brought the stone pickaxe, so even if I accidentally did find netherite, which I'm really only doing half-heartedly, this is just an excuse to do something dangerous on stream while I talk to you. But yeah, I didn't actually bring anything to harvest it, because I don't think you can use stone to harvest netherite. What do you need for netherite? Iron or is it diamond to harvest? Karina says, any tips for maintaining relationships as an adult? I mean, with your friends, even if you can only pop in for a little bit, try to do it. Like, some of my friends have a group Discord that they use to organize ski trips and stuff that I can't go to. But
If making friends with the people, that there are some people who you can not see them for like years, and then the next time you see them, you pick it up like you saw them last week. If you can find those kinds of people, that helps a lot too.
But yeah, I was gonna say, even though I can't go with my friends on their ski trips or whatever, like a lot of times when they're in the voice chats on that Discord, they're just like chatting anyway, you know. So I might pop in, say, hey, what's going on, you know. Just you know, say hello, hang out for 15 20 minutes while, because like there's always stuff that I have to do anyway, like laundry and dishes and stuff at the end of the night. So when I'm doing those things, you know, before I hop on Twitch and see what's going on Twitch, a lot of times I'll see what's going on my friends' different Discord, see who's in voice chat, just say hello. People are saying you need diamond for netherite. Well, we didn't actually find any netherite, but I'm realizing I'm maybe under-kitted for this and I should get some gold. But yeah, like, Burko Birds, where am I? Dang it, I'm in Impulse's house. I don't know how to leave. There we go. Burko Bird asks, this is more for Joe than Morv. Did you get help with parents? Did you get help with parents from parenting from some of the older hermits or community people who already had kids? I mean, I'm going to be honest. Most of the parenting advice is super generic. It's like, I don't know, get what sleep you can. Like,
it's like you sleep when the baby sleeps. Like, but I have things to do when the baby's sleeping.
Yeah, no, I refuse to sleep when the baby slept because otherwise I would have no life ever. But yeah, a lot of parenting advice is kind of super generic. And so it's more that it's not necessarily about what advice you get from parents, which I know this is a whole stream about advice from parents in some ways, but it's more about like knowing that the people who are parents understand what you're going through more and can help you route around the damage in particular cases as things come up. So yeah, I don't know. It's not ideal. Sorry, it's not a great answer in some ways. But already have a good night, Cersei. People are saying, Tracy Weatherly says, I'm listening and trying to get these tips. My daughter's 3 too. Okay. And Jay Coffee Junkie says, I'm child-free, but greatly appreciated this conversation. And Janie Laney either agreed with that or with Allied Alex saying I came in late. Well, then, no, that wouldn't make any sense.
Tips to manage 4-year-old obsession with Minecraft. I would engage with your 4-year-old about it. Talk to them about it. See what they like. See what they want to do. See what it is that about Minecraft that takes that interest to them.
And also with the pandemic, it's easy for kids to kind of become couch potatoes. And so saying like, hey, let's go for a walk and talk about what you were building, you know, and stuff like that. Yeah, you can show me when you get home. But, you know, one of the things that I've made it clear to my daughter about is even if she doesn't feel like she needs a walk, like for grown-ups' health, they need to have walks. And because, like, you know, she's at a point where she knows that sometimes old people have heart disease and problems and stuff. And so you know, if I'm like, hey, do you want to go for a walk? A lot of times she might be like, well, no, maybe I want to keep playing Nintendo, or I want to watch TV or read a book. And it's like, well, we're going for a walk because I need it, you
Yeah,
know?
that's definitely a routine I need to get into for my own sake. It's true. I am admittedly not necessarily a very healthy person, and I have, on top of everything else, I have my own medical concerns
Hmm.
on top of that. So hopefully, that's going to change here soon with some things I've got coming up. But that
Hmm.
is definitely the kind of thing I want to get her into.
Yeah, and so like meet in the middle, like connect with the interests while doing something else. And then, you know, if they get home and they're back playing Nintendo again, well, hey, we walked around for 40 minutes and we stopped at the park and she ran around for another half hour there. But hey, we got a few tips rolling in I need to acknowledge real quick. Jean Willem Laridon tips 10. Let's see. That is going to put us 5 away from the next face camera expansion. It says, I'm a father for 11 months now, and I have a dream to start a YouTube channel mainly for streaming because I know nothing about video editing. Any good starter tips for that? I have a lot. One, don't stress out if you're not successful at something that you start when you have a new baby because the new baby is going to be the priority. Two, if you're starting off in streaming or anything really, your 2 goals should primarily be to have fun and to learn something. And so even if you fail at one of those goals at each individual session, hopefully on the whole, you're generally learning things and you're generally having fun. You know, third, if you're going to start a business, like if you open a restaurant, they say like you need to be prepared for your restaurant to like lose money for the first 6 months. Like if you're not streaming as a business, don't treat it like a business. Treat it like a hobby and just get the most joy out of it you can because you're going to do better creative work getting as much joy out of it as you can. If you're worried about, did I make $15 this month or $25? Oh, if I sign this deal with this mousepad manufacturer, I could get another $15 a month. Like that's the wrong approach. Just like how much are you willing to let somebody screw with your hobby for $15, $20 a month, you know? If you painted model trains, somebody's like, "Hey, paint this mouse pad logo on your train. I'll give you $30." You'd be like, "No, this train cost me $300 and the paints are another 50. I don't need your little money." It's like, how much are you spending on your streaming rig? You don't need to worry about spare change from some manufacturer. I don't know. Sorry, I'm kind of going off on a thing here. But like I see a lot of people get caught up in, and you alluded to this earlier, people equating like, oh, if I get sponsorship deals or if I'm making money, that means I'm successful. And it's like, if your goal is to have fun and learn things, how much money a mousepad manufacturer gives you doesn't mean you're successful. How much fun and how much you learn means you're successful, you know? So also we got another tip rolling in for 10 from Leslie, who says, thanks for the stream tonight, Joe. Well, thank you, Leslie, for watching and for supporting the show. That puts us $5 past our next face camera expansion milestone. Here we go. Expand. Just do. We are now at what we call the T. Joe Eckelsberg phase, because it's just my giant floating eyeglasses. Very Great Gatsby here. But yeah, welcome, True Pat. Welcome, everybody. I'm going to stand still for a minute because the server is about to go down for... Oh, no, not... It's a bad time to be running around the nether jumping over lava when the server could reset in the next 5 minutes. So I'm going to not rush back to the nether quite yet. Let's think about what we need. Oh, yeah, if we... So, unfortunately, it seems like if we want to mine out what mouse mat manufacturer wronged you. I'm just looking around my room and I'm talking about trains, like painting model trains, because I have my train whistle here. Because when I stream with my friends who have Twitch affiliation, which I don't have because like I don't want Amazon to be my business. Yeah, so I got this train whistle, so when I stream with my friends and they get a hype train, I can just blow the whistle.
Okay.
And I'm like, I've got a mouse pad that has a logo on it. They didn't pay me for it, but I'm like annoyed that there's a logo on this mouse pad because it would be a nicer mouse pad if it didn't have a logo. Little stuff like that. But yeah.
I saw one question go by it. It says, do you have any tips for getting a toddler to respect you? And really the answer to that one that I have found is you respect them first and you show them what it's like to respect somebody else. And it's not going to be a 100% time because at the developmental age of a toddler, they're only really barely aware that there are people outside of themselves.
Yeah.
and it's hit or miss. But if you treat them with respect like you would any other person, the chances of you getting treated with respect by them are much higher.
Absolutely. And I will say, one of the things that streaming and YouTube really prepared me for as a parent is explaining everything I'm doing in front of someone who may not care. Like, it'd be one of those things where, she'd be like, I want to watch TV when she was little. And I'd be like, well, I need you to help me make macaroni and cheese. Okay, how do we make macaroni and cheese? First, we got to get a pot out of the cabinet. Where do we find the pots? Is it in that cabinet? Is it in that cabinet? Oh, there it is. And then, okay, we need to fill it with water. Here, I'll hold you up so you can turn on the water. And then, okay, we got enough. Turn the water off. Okay, now we got to put the pot on the stove. The stove is only for grown-ups, so I'm going to turn it on. And it's going to take a little time, and it's going to get hot. In the meantime, we need to find the box of mac and cheese in the pantry. Okay, where's the box? We got to take out the sauce packet. And where's the sieve that we're going to need to drain the pasta later? And you could
Yeah.
But, like, the kid seeing that you're doing seeing all the steps that you do to take care of them. You're not just working in the kitchen while they're in the other room all the time, right? You're carrying them around, or you're sitting them in, like, a high chair when they're smaller that... I know I'm not doing a lot on the server, but it's about to start in 1 minute, so it's a bad time to do anything dangerous. But, just having the kids somewhere around you where you can explain to them what you're doing and kind of make a game out of it and make it entertaining for them, they're going to respect you more if they see how much you're doing and they feel like you're trying to involve them in it.
And I mean, even when it comes to disciplining them, I mean, sometimes you do have to yell at a toddler because they're about to do something that's going to injure them horribly, and you cannot snatch them away from it in time. It does have to happen. But at the same time, every time you yell at your kid, that's going to bruise their trust with you a little bit. So if you afterwards take the time to explain to them, even if you don't think they're going to understand what you're saying, they'll get that you're sorry for yelling at them, but you're explaining there was a thing you needed to not do. And they'll get that much at least.
And as soon as they're old enough that they don't need to be yelled at, stop. And so it's funny. This is going to sound like a little bit of a diversion here, but have you played any pinball at all, Morvy?
Yes.
Okay, so
for a long time, but yes.
Okay, so there's a Guardians of the Galaxy pinball machine that has 8 missions on it, and if you complete 4 of them, it starts a special multi-ball, and it's really hard to complete 4 missions. And so at one point, I was renting a Guardians of the Galaxy machine. This is another thing. Like, if you're a parent and you can't leave the house, try to make the house as bearable as possible. So I have a friend who has a big collection of pinball machines, and he's kind enough to rent me one at a really good rate, So anyway, I start yelling for my daughter, like, Corinne, Corinne, get in here, Corinne. And she's just like, she was panicked because she's like, you never yell at me unless I'm in peril. She didn't say exactly that. It was like, if I'm not gonna die, I don't get yelled at. What? And I'm like, I can't leave because it's a 1 minute time multi-ball, but you gotta get in here. Like, but yeah, I didn't realize like how long it had been since, because when they're little, as you said, they need, sometimes you have to get their attention away from whatever they're doing that's gonna harm them. But like, it's just like, wow, it's been years since she's been yelled at, and like, but yeah, I'm like, I guess I'm doing something right on some level, that she was so surprised that like I was shouting her name, from the other room. But yeah, like, I don't know. That was just kind of weird and funny.
I need to take 5 here. It looks like it's bedtime.
Oh yeah. Don't totally go say goodnight to your kid. This is a very chill, very calm stream. I think we had some other questions I can answer while Morvy is away here. Okay. Also, I should go use the bed so that mobs don't spawn out there on my way to the nether portal, because I would not want that. Okay. So, Leo B says, any advice for juggling a creative hobby with work in an unrelated field? It's easy to get so tired you never do anything. Leo B, my advice would be to juggle a hobby with work in an unrelated field. So, unfortunately, the thing you're struggling with is what I tell people to do. Because if your hobby is too close to your day job, you're not going to enjoy your hobby anymore. I used to love programming, and then I had a bunch of career problems because I had developed a medical issue, so I had to leave my primary career track and fall back on my programming hobby as my day job. And it killed my ability to like spend time after hours working on programming stuff because it was just like, no, it reminds me too much of work, which is why I didn't want to be a programmer in the first place as a job, because I knew it would do that and I loved it so much. And one day I'll get good at programming again as a hobby, but I can't deal with that right now. So yeah, like you want to have a hobby that exercises parts of your brain that are completely different from your day job, so that way you don't get burned out on it doing one thing all the time. Okay, so if we wanted to try to get back to the direction we saw, okay, we got gold now. Yeah, pinball is super different from everything else I do, so it works entirely different parts of my brain. It's got like, it's very high reflex. It's got my eyes focusing on different things at different depths. Oh, we forgot to get the other pickaxe. Is it worth it, I guess, to some degree is the question. Is it worth it to go get... Have I designed a pinball machine yet? No, Janie, but that's like my ideal retirement hobby. Oh, hey, Scar's online. Scar. Howdy. Did you wanna record the dead tree thing soon? Okay, I might have to run back to my house. I talked to Scar earlier today about trying to record a brief segment about where to put the dead tree that he wants to build. Because a man's got to build a dead tree now and again. But yeah, I think that, like, designing games and, like, my goal is that by the time I retire, I want to have made peace with the amount of stress I had at my day job programming to go in and actually start making games and stuff again. And some of that might be pinball, some of that might be other stuff I haven't figured out yet, but seeing the creativity in the pinball community is inspiring for me in a very long-term optimistic way, because it's not something where I don't look at those people who are super creative and active right now and go, oh yeah, I should be doing that tomorrow, because as a parent who's got all these other responsibilities, there's no way. That's unreasonable. But you know what? Hey, that'd be a cool retirement hobby. Paleo philosophy says, did somebody say dead tree thing? Okay. Okay. But yeah, I mean, that's the thing though, is in life you can't just say like you need to have goals at different distances from where you are now. Why am I still wearing this wig? You can't really see it. Okay.
Yeah, on that note, I have returned as well.
Welcome back, Janie. I'm actually gonna tweak this a little bit because it's not quite the size that they should be. There it is. Okay. So let's see. Yeah, welcome back. So the Scar thing that I told you might be a distraction during the stream, we are actually not going to be recording today. So that simplifies things. Because I had warned Morvy, like, hey, Scar and I are going to try and record this thing, so you might have to be quiet for like 7 minutes. And he just logged on, and apparently he is not feeling up for recording, so...
That is a shame. I have met Scar only very briefly, but he seems like a very, very good dude.
Yeah, well, but it's all about energy management when you're creative, you know?
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so, you know, he's like, no, I just want to do my winding down for the day task, gather resources, that sort of thing. Totally cool. I get it. Yeah, he did a big stream earlier today. So people are asking other questions about how to embrace failures and handle toxic relationships. I mean, I don't know that I'm the best person to talk to about either of those, because I'm starting to suspect that sometimes I don't recognize when a relationship is toxic, and I haven't figured out what to do about that yet. So,
I have just tipped the balance where I think I'm starting to have confidence in myself to see where a relationship, and that could be friendship, whatever, just is a toxic thing. And I'm just having confidence in myself to spot that I've been able to spot it for several years now. Unfortunately, the way that I was able to learn how to spot it was experience.
yeah.
I had to have some very bad ones before I could spot it reliably.
Yeah, and it's one of those.
And you always have a blind spot when it comes to your own relationships. That's a given.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things. Like I'm just really, I don't know. I'm a very trusting person, and I tend to give people the benefit of the doubt, and so sometimes people might take advantage of that, and I kind of just need to. I don't know, sanity check sometimes with my friends, like, hey, this seems kind of off to me. Is this off? Or, like, because I can't tell, like, you know, it's like I'm tired. Maybe my judgment is off. What's going on? Like, dang it, I keep forgetting the diamond pick, but we haven't actually found any netherite yet, so let's just maybe go build a bridge and explode things. But yeah, I don't know. I will say, like, I'm the sort of person who, when I got served my divorce papers about 2 years ago, it was actually 2 years ago or 3 years ago, I don't know, yesterday. It was on the Ides of March, and I remember thinking, like, great, now I'm always going to associate this holiday with betrayal, so that's ruined. But, yeah, you know, it's one of those things, yeah, I guess it was 3 years ago, I guess. Like, I remember initially being, like, I was completely blindsided by this, and, like, I was just like, wow, I don't know how I'm ever going to trust anyone again. I don't know how I'm going to come back from this. And I'm like, oh, no, that's not the problem at all. No, the problem for me is that I'm absolutely going to trust everyone again, because I trusted everyone up to this point, and I'm going to keep I'm like, you know, like in Community, there's a joke. There's this old guy played by Chevy Chase named Pierce, and Joel McHale asks him, like, you know, you've been married 9 times. At a certain point, do you start asking yourself, is there something wrong with me? And I'm like, oh no, that could be me. I could fail my way through a whole bunch of marriages and never see the end coming, and just be this stupid guy, and, like, I don't know. So, like, I'm trying to be better at that sort of about avoiding situations that might go that way, or toxic relationships or whatever. But I kind of recognize that some people have different strengths and weaknesses, and that's recognizing stuff like that is not one of my strengths. Now,
I think part of it also is not just recognizing it, but being willing to do something about it when you do recognize it.
mm-hmm.
And that is, I think, the part also that a lot of people have problems with. Because I know since the worst of the relationships I've had, since then I have been very open and honest about what I'm aiming for, what I want, what I'm expecting.
Mm-hmm.
And even if some of that is just letting them know that, and sometimes I'm not going to know. But if I am not getting what I have said that I need, that is when conversations begin. And if that doesn't change things, then that's my signal that I need to step away. Mm-hmm. And I need to not care if that makes me the bad guy or not.
So hopefully that's helpful to the person asking about that. Let's see what other questions. How to embrace failures. I mean, I guess on some level, that's another thing that I'm bad at, because I almost never expect to succeed. I just do a bunch of things that make sense at the time, and I hope they work out right. And so like, that's to give you an example. One of my friends, Pasta, who actually did a similar call-in stream to what we're doing with Morvy, about charity events. He was like, Joe, hey, I know you do some charity streams and stuff. Can you talk to me about this upcoming thing I want to put together, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, come on the show, because I'm sure other people have similar questions. We'll chat it out. It'll just be an excuse to hang out during my stream time. And, I helped him out with that, having him on the show, and I sent him a capture card and, to help out with his stream, because it was like one that I couldn't use or whatever. I don't even remember why not, but there was some reason that I was like, okay, I'll just send this to him. And like, I wasn't expecting him to be wildly successful. He was just my friend, and he was trying to do something good, and I said, I will do something good to help him. And then he ended up being wildly successful at this charity stuff. And like, he asked me at one point, he's like, how did you know that this was going to work out? Like, because you believed in me when other people didn't. Everybody either ignored me or didn't think that there was any shot. And I was like, I mean, I thought it would be a cool way to hang out more, and maybe you'd learn something. But like, which once again, that's my advice for streamers, is try to learn something and have fun. But like, I always knew you were capable of being successful, but I had no insight, no secret knowledge. Like, all this stuff is just, you get lucky or you don't, but sometimes you show up and do the work and it pays off, sometimes it doesn't. And I knew that you would do the work, so I did my best to support you.
Yeah.
Oh, go on.
I was about to say, I know for me that with failure, it's not so much of a am I going to succeed or am I going to fail thing. It's, if I succeed, that's fantastic. If I fail, do I know why I failed? Is there something I can do differently? What did I do otherwise that was good? If you fail, you learn. Mm-hmm. And the more you learn, the less you have to worry about failure.
Well, and there's a saying, if you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're successful at everything you do, you're doing the wrong things.
Yeah, if you're successful at everything you do, do more.
Yeah, like you aren't learning you aren't on the edge that you need to be at if you're never failing. And so I consider failure just kind of an expectation. I do weird stuff all the time, and I don't know what's going to work and what isn't. This face camera thing working was a complete shock to me. I had no idea. If I knew this was going to work, I would have done it 10 years ago. Like, but
by the same token, it may not have worked 10 years ago.
No, yeah, and that's the thing, is it's just, you got to get in the right place at the right time. And a lot of that is just showing up and doing your best to make a fun environment for people around you and a productive environment for people around you. And so people want to be around you, and then you get invited back to things. And I don't know, sometimes stuff works out. But like, yeah, I think in some ways, one of the only things that I actually thought, one of the only things I've ever been confident was going to be successful was my marriage, because I felt like my ex-wife and I had very challenging circumstances with her grad school stuff, but like, we were a team working together on it, and she was making progress and I was taking care of our daughter, and everything was, it was a shared challenge that we were succeeding at on the whole. And I was absolutely wrong and completely blindsided that nope, I was apparently just, it wasn't going to work out. And so, like, yeah, I don't know. Everything else in my life, I'm like, yeah, this could go absolutely sideways at any time. Except for that. I had complete confidence in that, and nope. So, once again, I'm a terrible judge of this stuff.
I'm kind of the other way around. I am very stuck in my ways. I am I am not a gigantic fan of change,
Mm-hmm.
but once the change happens, it seems to just roll into the new normal for me, and it's like it was always that way, if that makes any sense. I mean, my mom used to say, it's like, oh, well, you do things the same way twice with Annie, which that's my name, Annie, then that's the way it will be forever.
One of my friends has a saying that he's a bit of a humorist, and he has a parody of an Einstein quote that I particularly like, that says, "Doing the same thing again and again and expecting different results is the definition of practice."
I like that.
Yeah, and I retweet that every so often. He came up with that in like 2011 or something stupid, and it was on Reddit like 6 years later, and like he just like linked his tweet. He's like, "Beat you to it, man." But I mean, realistically though, when you are trying to improve at something, you might look like a crazy person because there's a lot of overlap there. The original Einstein quote is, "To do the same thing again and again and expect different results
This is insanity.
is the definition of madness." Yeah. And so, yeah, it's kind of one of those things where, you know, you got to go into this stuff to some degree saying, hey, if I'm going to try and improve at something, it might not look great. It might look like failure at first. You know, the first time that you pick up a guitar, if you try to play a chord, you can probably get it eventually. But, I mean, that chord is not going to sound the way it will once you've been practicing for 10 years. You know, and it would be wild to think otherwise, you know. But if you don't define success the right way, then you're going to pick up the guitar for the first time, say, I'm a failure at this, and never pick up the guitar again. You know, for me, I was streaming since 2008, and for the most part, my audience was like 6, 7, 8 people for years. And now I'm streaming for I don't know how many because I refuse to look because it will make me a crazy person. But presumably it's slightly more than 8. And don't tell me because I will go crazy and it's against the rules to tell me how many people are watching.
The closest thing I will say is that it is more than I typically get these days.
That's fine. Whoa. Oh no, I accidentally bricked up that. Ah! Then I blew it up. Madman. If y'all are seeing am I just like not seeing the netherite? Usually if I blow up a few beds, I would find one netherite by now. But yeah, I mean, so like, and even though objectively we kind of came into this from a parenting standpoint, a lot of the stuff about creativity and parenting is just finding ways to find time to do stuff and knowing that in that limited amount of time, you're not going to be successful at the level you want to. If you said, I just had a baby 3 years ago, which sounds like a long time to people who don't have a baby, but like, wow, it is not a long time.
It is both an infinitesimal expanse of time and none at all.
Infantesimal.
Infantesimal, yes.
Yes. But the thing is, if you're like, I had a baby 3 years ago, I'm going to learn to play guitar now. It's like, honestly, for the next few years, you're not going to have a lot of time to learn to play the guitar. Like,
not unless baby wants to learn how to play the guitar, too.
Yeah.
Oh, no. She's more into drums, though.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, if you can just get 15 to 45 minutes a day, here or there, to play the guitar, maybe the kid's sitting with you, you know? Like, and in some ways, you know, that's where streaming and videos are a lot easier to make with a kid around, because I could just say, okay, be quiet, I need to record now, and then, like, you know, do a take, and if she talked, I could, you know, not use it.
There was one sweet spot when she was about 7, 8 months old, where she wasn't moving around enough yet to be a problem, but she was awake enough to be entertaining that I actually just, for the first time, set up a regular webcam, and I just put her in her little playpen, and I focused the camera on her for the live stream. But then she started crawling and walking, and that was over.
Once they start being mobile, it's harder to take them places. You would think like, oh no, but now they can move themselves around. It's like, yeah, but 90% of the places I go, I don't want them wandering around. You know, that's not ideal.
Yeah.
Okay, people are saying I'm too high up to get netherite. Okay, level 15. How do we get down to level 15 from here? Because it seems like if we're this high up, that would be a difficult challenge. Let's see. Lems 3011 Crafts Tips 5 who says, I love that quote and this entire talk has been very refreshing. Thank you. That puts us 10 away from the next face camera expansion. Tips are welcome via paypal.me/Joe Hills and YouTube Super Chat. And I forgot, I usually at this level I turn off the ring light as well so that I can have less reflection on my glasses for people. Okay, so
As lovely as conversation has been, I think I need to wrap it up. Lack of live streaming has left my voice a little untrained for talking at long points of time.
oh, that is totally fine, Morvy. I probably need to call it a night too. I have a ton of editing I need to do, and this seems like a safe place to log out in this fortress.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I was going to recommend you focus on surviving the nether in your search for netherite, but if you wanted to just log out there, that would work too.
Well, no, I'm going to try and get back to my house before the end of the stream. But thank you, Greyheart, for tipping 10, who says this netherite, or sorry, this geopacity is not conducive to netherite spotting. So here we go. It's time to expand. Joe, oh no. So they shouldn't be able to see me. They can see me now. They can still see me. Are you kidding?
It's just one eye. One eye.
Okay, hold on. I want to eat a potato and not light more fires everywhere. Also, Quiet Devious. Oh, wait, sorry. We didn't lower the geopacity now to 42%. And then we have one more face camera expansion to process because Quiet Devious just tipped 20 as well. Morby, do you have 5 minutes? Sorry, people keep tipping.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Or do I need to say goodbye to you first and then do these?
No, go ahead.
Grow Hills. Brr, that brings us down to a frigid 32% geopacity Fahrenheit. And we also have another tip that just rolled in from Randall for 20, who says, helping the camera view. Also, netherite is most common at Y15. Best of luck. Well, thank you, Randall. That gets us evenly to the next expansion milestone. So here we go. Expand Jost. And then we are going to lower the geopacity now to 24%. So thank you, Randall. Okay. Whoa, Matthew Lavis rolled in and tipped 50. So that's going to finish out this abacus here. Boom. That gets us... Wait. Does that... No. Okay, I counted wrong and did an expansion earlier too soon. But either way, yeah, so we're going to do 3 more face camera expansions for that. Here we go. Expand. Jost. And then that is going to bring us to 20% geopacity. Numero dos. Even bigger Jost. OBS is not really built for this, Morvy. So, like, it gets really awkward. I'm having to, like, drag it off to the side and then get to the handles. Bringing it down now to 16% geopacity. And for that third one, numero tres. Have an exceptionally large face. I know I do. Yes, it's true. I'm killing time because these things take forever to drag back onto the screen. Okay, so somewhere in here is my eye. There it is. Lowering the geopacity now to 12%. So thank you, M. Lavis, who says, thought about a funny prank for Jev. Put a Cleo armor stand to pop out of the ground when he walks by. That could work. That's actually kind of thematic with my haunted house. So we might revisit that. Okay, Morvy. So once again, for folks who want to find you on Twitch and follow you there.
Yeah, you can find me at twitch.tv/Morvelaira, MORVELAIRA.
Okay, I'm going to copy and paste that real quick into all the chats here. And are you active on Twitter these days? I think I've seen you there.
Very active on Twitter.
Okay,
that's
so
my main hangout spot, if you want.
Twitter, that's what I thought. I wasn't sure if you still want, if you were like looking at that as a entryway or not.
It's mostly I am kind of liberal with my personal views and opinions and this, that, and the other on
So
there.
so am I. I mean, I'm on there complaining
Yeah.
about Putin every other day at this point. So my
Well,
audience,
okay, I'm probably a little bit more reserved than you are then.
yeah,
But
I feel,
whenever I do go streaming and do go live, announcements do go through the Twitter.
I did appreciate when we met at PAX one year. We were at the bar talking about how like it's just better to not be afraid to tweet about politics and talk about this stuff.
Yeah, to be fair, I could not remember exactly what that conversation was about, but I did remember coming away with the impression that you were intelligent and knew what you're talking about.
Oh, thank you. You know what? That's vaguely intelligent is really what I go for in every interaction. If people start thinking about it too hard, yeah, it's going to slip away. But, you know, that's fine.
Actually, it's that conversation and that impression that led to me reaching out to you that led to this here today is because I went, Joe he's got a kid and he's been through things and he's still making the streaming work. And he's a smart guy. Obviously, he must know something about this.
Well, that particular conversation is why I was thinking, like, oh, yeah, I should just have Morvy on the show. Like, yeah, we haven't kept up, but, like, yeah, I feel like I feel like I have a good idea of who you want to be and maybe, you know, what you're doing. And I felt like my audience would be receptive to that. So,
Yeah.
thank you, everybody here, for giving Morvy a try. And
thank you, Stream Chat. It's been lovely to meet you all today.
alrighty. Well, I'm going to let you go call it a night, Morvy. I'm going to keep streaming for a few minutes because I still need to, like, get home safe. And if I get blown up immediately after stopping the stream, I'm going to be really mad at myself.
Yeah.
So you can just go ahead and hang up on Discord so I don't get creepered switching windows.
All right.
Thanks again,
Have
Morvy.
fun. Bye-bye.
Bye. Alrighty, folks. Yeah, like, this is the sort of thing I usually do. I try to do this a few times a year. I feel like I haven't done a great job at it, but I love having guests of the stream here and there. So yeah, let's go ahead and get to bed, and then we can try and figure out what to do next. I've still got so much footage from that HHH thing on Monday. I did a bunch of replay mod exporting yesterday, and I need to get all that into the video file thing. So I probably can't, even though I have a lot of energy, I need to direct that energy into getting that episode out. So let's see. It is Wednesday night. Wednesday night's always kind of a hard night for raids because, oh, let's see what is going on here. Flipping out pinball playing Rush. Ooh, that sounds good. Why don't we go ahead and head over to the Pinball Network. One of the things I like about the Pinball Network is, like me, they are not affiliated on Twitch or what's that other thing that people are always on about? Yeah, they're not affiliated or partnered on Twitch because they multi-stream like I do. A bunch of people playing pinball, hanging out. And so why don't we head over there now? When you get there, say howdy, y'all. Joe Hills Raid here. And yeah, until next time, y'all, this is Joe Hills from Nashville, Tennessee. Keep adventuring.